understand the message. Then there are radio messages. We have come out with the print media. These are school comics. If you go on the RBI website, there is a subsection on the left corner which says financial education. And let me tell you, these are comics, and one comics is on monetary policy. And if you are not able to understand today's monetary policy lecture, you go and read that comics, and I am dead sure you will understand the monetary policy from a school children's perspective. Then, what are the new initiatives? Under PMJDY, there are some new initiatives, depositor education and awareness fund scheme, through which if money is there over a period of 10 years and it has not been claimed by any depositor, it will be transferred to a fund and which will be utilized for financial literacy initiatives. Then Sachet sir has already told you about. Now, what is our expectation from this program? You knew already a lot of things. Our expectation is that you have been given a torch. Now, what you will be doing, you will not be keeping these messages to yourself, and you will be sharing these messages to as many people as possible. And in future, you will find the business perspective in financial inclusion and financial literacy, and in serving the masses. You can come up with incremental interventions and disruptive interventions, and there is a host of different suggestions here. But with these words, I will rest my hand. Thank you.
In case there are no questions, then I will ask Yatharth to take over the dais.
This is one golden opportunity for you guys to ask your queries from the curators of the Indian rupee. So I would request you again, the floor is still open. If there are any queries, you can ask. Yeah, there is one.
In India for financial inclusion.
Market include venture capital funds, cheat funds, kind of thing. So our multi-layer marketing scheme, SEBI has been given some power. Like company like Sarda, SEBI has been investigating. So the point is that if you have one regulator for capital market, money market, banks, for everything, then probably the role will get mixed. But the debate is on, it's still going on, and it happens normally after every crisis takes place, whether we need to have. Ultimately, even in, if you see the UK and the US structure, they have decided to have a better communication among regulator rather than merging of the regulators. So they have arrived at a consensus that there has to be a communication channel, and that is why the government has set up this FSLRC in the government, which is headed by RBI governor, and where all the regulators are members, and even the finance secretary is a member. So they have decided to have a better communication among regulators rather than merging all the regulators. Thank you.
5%. But the banks have reduced the lending rate by 0.5%. So how RBI is taking care of, like, the benefit is passed on to the consumers more efficiently?
What the banks have done actually, once we have reduced the policy rate by 150 basis points, what was our expectation is that weighted average call rate will move down accordingly, will be moving as per the repo rate, and then accordingly your short-term interest rate like CP, CDs will comes down, and then it will go to the medium-term interest rate and the long-term interest rate. So those things should be passed on through the transmission mechanism to the lending process. But what the banks are saying, since we have the average cost of the fund is high, so we cannot transmit your policy stances immediately to the market. So that's why we have developed one more concept based on the marginal cost of lending, MCLR. So what we are saying to, okay, fine, whatever you have, the average cost of your fund is high. So whatever additional fund you are getting from RBI, let's say if you are getting 100 crore rupees from RBI through the repo, that is on the reduced rate, let's say 6.25% today. So your funding based on this fund should be based on this base, not your average cost. So your next lending will be cheaper. So you see that after the certain period of time, the transmission will be much faster. I hope I could explain.
A student of IMT. Sir, we all know that RBI is targeting CPI, while CPI contribution has 46% of food, and rest is different things where energy is also involved. So I want to know what was the ideology behind signing the memorandum of understanding to keep CPI as a target at one of the objective.
Inflation basically goes to the poor people because they are suffering a lot because of the inflation. Earlier we were not having any harmonized CPI, so that's where we were anchoring the WPI. Now the government has developed a harmonized CPI, means one CPI we can target. So what we understand, the CPI, the consumer price index, is the better representation of the inflation in the economy because it is more on the consumption basis. So that's why we have agreed on the CPI.
But sir, if you can see, the RBI is not having direct hold of food prices or something because these are depends
That's
on
what
monsoon
actually, that's what we have a hold on the financial sector.
Yes.
And what we are trying to hit the real sector. So that's why if you see our policy stances basically goes towards the demand side of the inflation management, and we little bit on the short-term supply side of the management. So longer-term supply side, let's say of a lot of demand for the pulses and the protein-based items actually. That goes to a longer term process. It goes to the government for the developing infrastructure and the facilitating for the more pulses and then the reducing in the food grain components in the CPI and the CPI. What we do basically the demand side of the inflation management. Okay?
Of financial awareness in people nowadays. You talk about Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. So I just want to ask one thing, that if a common man is involved in such kind of schemes, so what is the way forward? Should he write to RBI or what should be done in this case? Okay, thank you, sir.
And giving infrastructure, they are again launched a Make in India program, which they are more focusing on supply side economy. So in short term, we are gaining results, but what about the long run? It will lead to permanent inflation, right? In the long run. So what are
Government is doing any expenditure, if you see the what is the economic theory says about, it immediately goes towards the demand side because any expenditure by the government will create some additional aggregate demand in the economy. So immediate effect will be there on the supply side, on the inflation, sorry. And then, but in the longer term, those expenditure will add some value to your economic productivity and then supply side. So in the longer term, the management of the inflation of the government expenditure will have a negative effect, not on the positive side. That is my understanding.
we will get a demand for that supply, but in longer run, that will lead to higher prices, right?
No, suppose hypothetical example, 100 crore rupees. That goes to the economy through the government expenditure. Let's say on the infrastructure. Okay, so immediately it will add some value to the demand because that government expenditure is someone's income that will go as a demand. So immediate effect will be there on the inflation because there is a demand and supply is not there. But once that the objective of the government expenditure for the developing infrastructure will be there, there will be a supply side. They boost the supply to meet this additional demand. So longer term inflation management will be better through the government expenditure. In the longer term, inflation will be less.
I want to ask that there were rumors of a Fed rate hike and maybe it may soon happen. So what are the effects it will have on the economy and is RBI prepared to deal with it?
Hike, again, discussion is going on for last 1 year. It's nothing new, and more or less it has been factored into or in all our decisions. Fed rate hike implication, if you ask, the immediate implication could be on FDI flows or FII flows, because as we all know, the rate of interest has remained very low in US or Europe, and whatever money, as Mr. Gopal was saying, is flowing to the emerging market is because of, for want of yield And those area in US and all, since it is at say 2% or 1.5%, whatever rate the money is available, it's coming to say our country or it is going to other emerging economies. So if they hike the rate, this money will go back. Why it will go back? Because suppose US make the rate of interest at 3% from current say around 2%. When somebody borrows in US and brings the money to say India, they are running at a foreign exchange risk. So what they do, they cover up. Mostly they cover up through the swap transactions. The cost of swap, say for 5 years in India as of now, it's around 5.5 to 6%. So the effective cost in India is roughly around say 8% as of now, 7.5 to 8%. So if they have to remain in India, they must be earning around 12% or 13%. So if the Fed rate, if it is hiked, then they will compare whether if they remain in India is still beneficial or not. If still beneficial, they may continue. If they feel no, it's not beneficial now, they may like to go back. So that is the implication. The immediate implication will be on FDI and FII flows because of differential rate of interest. But in long run, again, it will depend upon the fundamentals of the country. If India is able to give them still better return, they may not like to go back to US. Thank you.
Insightful session by our most eminent speakers. On the behalf of the entire sector, I would now like to request the volunteers from IMT Prism to hand over the mementos to Shri Ajay Kumar, the Regional Director of RBI. Shri S.K. Verma, Deputy General Manager, RBI. Shri Vinod Kumar, Circle Head, PNB. Shri C. Sridharan, DGM Syndicate Bank. And Shri A.K. Sharma, Chairman, Sub UP Grameen Bank.
Let me tell you something about the mementos. These mementos are Sohrai paintings made by the tribal women from Jharkhand. The committee cricket from IMT Ghaziabad have undertaken a project called R1, under which they try and work for the sustainable livelihood for these women and help them stand for a cause.
Papachan sir, placement coordinator. Aparna Day ma'am, head examination. Mr. B.C. Bahuguna, head APO. Mr. S.P. Agarwal and Mr. R.J. Kishore Pandey for their immense support, and without their support, this event wouldn't have been possible. I would like the volunteers to please escort the dignitaries for further arrangements. Thank you. IMT Prism is relaunching the official blog of IMT, the voice of IMT.
Okay, we understand that you guys want to go, and now I would request section A to kindly stand up and exit from the front.